Have you just received a pile of documents from your ex for disclosure and now you're thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? Well, today's episode will be perfect for you. We are going to be covering all things disclosure and what are you actually supposed to do about it. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone.
Now, Mum, we get asked this question a lot,
Yes.
but before we go into it, just a reminder, Mum is not your lawyer. This is just a general legal discussion. It is not legal advice. So please, please, please always see a lawyer and get independent legal advice for your situations. Let's get to the jingle and let's get started.
Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom.
Disclosure. It's huge. And we've got a checklist that people can download for free off our free resources section.
Yes.
You go to thedivorcecourse.com.au and go to the free resources section in the heading and you can download our free disclosure checklist. One of the hard parts is getting disclosure, and we've done some great episodes on that. Go and listen to those. I'll put them in the show notes. But then not many people talk about what are you actually supposed to do with their disclosure.
Yes.
So, Mum, can you explain why disclosure is so important
Okay.
and what the heck are you supposed to do with it?
All right. Disclosure is giving a copy to the other side or a link to a document to the other side or to every document that you have that is relevant to the matter at hand. So if it's a financial matter, it might be tax returns, it might be income. If it's children's matters, you also do disclosure, but we don't get as many questions, do we, about that? But things that you've got from the school or the doctors or whatever. But mainly when people say about disclosure and my bugbear, full disclosure, because how do you know when you've got full disclosure? It's a crazy thing. Yeah.
We're going to go into full and frank disclosure a little bit later. But basically, so disclosure, you're saying, is anything that is relevant to your case.
Yes.
And in property settlement, there is a list of things the court expects people to share, even if you're not in court. And you can get that checklist from our website if you'd like that information. So there's a list of, bank statements,
Tax returns.
you name it,
Yep.
tax returns,
Pay
slips,
Yep.
super, all this kind of stuff. And it's quite a long,
Yes.
it's a couple of pages long. It's a lot,
Yes.
right? So that part's overwhelming. Doing it yourself is overwhelming. But then you're receiving it
Yes.
from your ex. So what are people supposed to be looking for when they finally get their ex's disclosure documents?
When they get some disclosure documents, it might not be all, but if they get some, so those documents that you mentioned, like a tax return, obviously will tell you what their taxable income has been over the past few years. If they've got a rental or if they've got other bank accounts, you'll be able to see in their tax return, not the tax assessment, we want the whole tax return. You'll be able to see if they've got any bank interest or anything. So you're just looking for stuff really that doesn't add up. And you're also looking for information and for numbers to plug into your calculations about what your entitlement is.
So before we move on from that, so when you say plug it in, we've talked about this and we've got it in our course. We've got the property spreadsheet where we show you where to plug in the information to help come out with the answer of what percentage of the property pool you're supposed to get. And income, assets, debt, super, all of that needs to be found and disclosed and given to you. So how do people know if their ex is like hiding incomplete?
All right.
What red flags do you see?
So when you look in their tax returns, like I said, you'll see if they've got perhaps another bank account or something, and you'll see what they're claiming for expenses and so forth. When you look at their bank statements, you'll be able to see money's coming in and money's going out, and you may see money going out into a different account for which there seems to be no explanation. That's one of the things you notice. Or you might see mention of a regular transfer to or from another account, and you might want to ask about that and see what that means. So you're looking for stuff that stands out and doesn't add up, technically, when you get their disclosure. So that's what you do with pay slips, tax returns, bank statements. Okay. Now, the other part of disclosure is really your own discovery of what they've got. And that's where you do the searches. We've talked about those in our course, where you find out what companies they've got, what businesses they're running. Are they registered for GST? If they are, then you can ask for their BAS returns for the previous time. You can have a search and see if they own any property, if they bought some since separation.
So I'm going to stop. So basically you're saying you rely on them to give you all that stuff, but you never trust. You're saying, Mum, you never trust them.
Right.
You always do your own research.
That's right.
And you can do your own research. If you listen to our DIY disclosure episode, I'll put that in the show notes. Mum takes you through the steps that you can take to basically do a little digging and see if they're telling the truth. Because I guess if you find out they are registered for an ABN and they've not mentioned it anywhere, then that could be proof that they're telling porkies.
Well, it'll make you very interested and you can ask more questions about it. So what you're looking for in an easy case is they give you all of their documents, you give them all of yours, you look at it and go, there's nothing untoward there. I can see where the wages are going in and going out. Okay, I'll do a search and see if they've become bankrupt, if they've got a loan for a car, if they've got real estate I don't know about. You do that. And then if they all come up empty or with nothing unexpected, then you have what I would call full disclosure. You've got the information you need to make decisions about offers and to make offers on.
Can I wind you back a little bit? Because I think you're so used to doing it.
Okay.
That someone who's doing it for the first time, I think there's a step you haven't mentioned that you do, and that is when you get all their bank statements.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get a year's worth of bank statements. And I've seen some people's disclosures sometimes be handed in just like haphazardly. Every couple of weeks they send something through and it's just a million emails in an inbox. You've got to go through actually and make sure chronologically you've got every one. Because I think there's some people who are hoping you're going to be so stressed moving house or so stressed about an upcoming mediation. You're not going to look and dot your I's and cross your T's. So make sure you've checked that you actually have every single statement that is required. Look at it. Is it June, July, August, September? Is anything missing? Yeah. Because that's one way I've heard that they do squirrel things away and things you should be checking.
Yeah. Sorry, but they can move things in and out on the same day and then just not give you that page. I've seen that a couple of dozen times. And also another trap is they have a positive balance in their credit card. So you look at their credit card and it says $868. You go, oh, they owe $868. But when you look at it, it's actually they're saving money into that account. You have to look and decide whether you trust them or not, but you still have to check.
Now, coming from a non-lawyer perspective. Okay. And our listeners, most of them aren't lawyers. I know there's a couple. But you receive your ex's disclosure. Okay. And maybe you've separated in the last 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And you're getting their bank statements. You're going to want to look at them. And I just, out of human curiosity, and look at where they're spending their money or what they're doing. Do you have to counsel your clients to make sure that they don't get caught up in the story that a bank account is going to tell you?
No, not really. I think if they're spending money on something, they shouldn't have done it because you might as well know. So I let my clients enjoy reading those statements if that's what they want. But my job as their lawyer and our listeners' jobs, if they're doing this for themselves, is after they've had that salacious look at it and go, oh my goodness, fancy that, then put your sensible shoes on and have a look at the document from a dollars in, dollars out situation.
So once you get over the fact maybe there's, I don't know, that you've noticed they're buying more alcohol or they're buying presents for their girlfriend or things like that, you've got to get over that and make sure you're paying attention to what matters. Because I do think some people get so hyper-fixated, especially if there's a new person on the scene, or maybe it was an affair, those kind of things, that you're not paying attention to what you should be paying attention to. Yeah. So looking for gaps in dates, looking for where money's being transferred, and looking for incomplete
sets.
Missing sets.
And if money's been transferred, don't get too caught up trying to find out where it went. If your ex had the money on a particular date and then he doesn't have the money or she doesn't have the money on the date they've given you the disclosure, then that's just counted as money they've spent on something. And it gets added back usually, okay? So they're all things you raise.
So things that you would rate. What about if you see them just wasting money? Like they're just hemorrhaging money. Like their account comes in, their money comes in, and then it's just spent all on something ridiculous. Is that something that they can raise with the court or mediation?
Not really. If they've got an income coming in, then you can spend your salary the way that you want, as long as you're covering your obligations for the children and mortgage and so forth. I think it's not uncommon for people to undergo, like maybe plastic surgery, get their nails done, just have holidays, indulge themselves, buy a motorbike, buy
So all of that's
jewelry,
okay.
Gollings and
All
Scott.
of that's okay as long as it's their own income.
That's right. If they're spending money that they had, that you guys had or they had in the bank at separation, that's a completely different story.
Imagine they get the disclosure and it's their joint bank account that they no longer have access to, and it had 100,000 in it. They've got the bank statements and it's just drained by ridiculous expenses that have nothing to do with reasonable living.
Yep.
Is that something they could raise?
Yes. And you say to the person, I'm going to ask the court to add that back into the property pool, or I'm going to add that back in as you already having had some of your share of the property pool and wasted it, basically.
Okay.
Because if they can't demonstrate that they used money on reasonable living expenses, then it all just gets added back in. And sometimes people on high salaries, or even who can fully support themselves at least, will still waste really money that they had at separation as well. And the court will, depends on the case, but the court will probably add the money out of that existed at separation back into the property pool.
So what is the point then of looking at all of this?
Yep.
Like what reasons are you looking at it? Is there sneaky things that people want to hide from the law so that they get a better outcome? Why are they hiding this stuff and what are they hiding?
Sometimes they're hiding money. Sometimes they're hiding liabilities if they're very shy or embarrassed. Sometimes they don't want you to see that they've been buying lingerie or flowers or whatever. But those are the basic documents the court says that they must give you, and it will give you a bit of an indication of what the aspects you've got to learn about, or you've got to know about them before you can make a reasonable offer. So you need to know what their income is. You need to know what future needs they've got. What's the superannuation? All of those things. So when you ask for more documents than that, right, people go for more documents than just kind of those things, then I think you need to ask yourself, why do you want that document? Because the court is very worried about lawyers and I guess people on their own as well getting hung up what I call death by disclosure, where they just want every single document. But if you ask them, why do you want that document? Oh, because, well, that doesn't figure in what the court looks at, So, yes, he might have spent $20,000 on a part for a boat, but you don't need to find out where he bought it from and how much he paid. He took $20,000 out. That can just get added back in. But when you're starting to think about businesses, then that's where people, I think, become easily derailed, and it can get very expensive.
So that death by disclosure, or people with this full and frank disclosure, it actually means in family law what you need to provide so that you can make a good assessment of what percentage or whatever. So you're saying make sure you don't get caught up in that, being obsessed with more and more bank statements. Because I have heard of people saying that their ex asked for the last bank statements for the last 7 years and the last 10 years, like just crazy amounts of bank statements, unless you've got a reason why you're asking for it.
Yeah.
And I know there are some people in the neurodivergent world who they need to see it because they don't want to have gaps. They need to fully understand it. And so it's from a neurodivergent reason they need to see it. And if that's something and a hurdle that you need to overcome so that you can move forward, then maybe that is something you just have to suck up and do.
Yes.
If you've got nothing to hide,
that's right,
you can do it. But as long as it's not costing you millions and millions of dollars to do it.
Well, here's the thing, Laura. In the old days, yes, people would. I remember a guy brought in a garbage bag full of bank statements when I was an article clerk, and I spent 2 days sorting them out into orders. But into order. But these days, it's all online. You can probably access it electronically and send it over to the other side if that's what they want. It's not that there's probably anything sneaky in there, but some people aren't satisfied until you have kind of emptied out your pockets and proven that there's nothing else. And if you start saying, that's really hard, I don't think I've got that far back, I haven't, then you're just going to increase their suspicions. Sometimes there's a valid reason to ask for stuff from 8 years ago. Say your sister or his sister lent money to the family. You want to show where that money came in, and that might be a very relevant document to produce. But when you're looking for material, when you're looking for documents, ask yourself, why do I want it? For you, if they exist at all, just send them all over to the other side. But if you're starting to look for stuff that isn't mainstream, ask yourself why.
So they've got the disclosure. How do they check if the listed income and expenses that they are saying is realistic? Like, how do you spot inconsistencies between them saying, oh, I only earn this much and I've got all these needs and et cetera, but then you see their disclosure and it ticks some boxes and red flags for you. Can you give me an example of that?
Yep. So
what people should look for?
Yes. So if I get given disclosure, the first thing I do, like you said, check they're all in consecutive order and I've got every one. And you'll always see a little statement, might be statement 1, statement 2, you can see that, or it might be page 2 of 3. Just make sure that's all there. Now, most banks have a summary of money in for the month and money out for the month, or money in for the 3 months, money out. So I start there. Okay. And then I go through, it's kind of a gut feeling thing. And bear in mind, I don't know these people when I'm going to, but what I'm looking for are recurring transfers, looking for things that I can identify. Oh, that was their rates, or this is they're paying their electricity every month. And then you start looking for the odd ones, particularly big amounts. So one of the things I remember finding a number of times is someone's had their wage increase, right? And they're not telling their ex. So when she gets her salary in, she immediately takes some of it back out. That's what I had. And you could, on the same day, and you see this sus little transfer, and that was what it was, concealing an income raise or an increase in salary.
Right. So basically you're saying you've got to go through and see what's odd here, what looks a bit sus. And if you're doing your own disclosure discovery and you're looking yourself, you'll know what to look for and what's abnormal. What about cash withdrawals? Is that something you need to raise if you see that happening all the time?
You see a lot of that. And some people go back over 4 years of marriage and say, $31,000 is missing. Where's that gone? When in reality, it's possibly just been spent on living expenses over the time and it's not wastage at all. I'd be looking for cash withdrawals at a gambling place, a casino or a club. Right. You'll see some consistent cash withdrawals. Sometimes one guy, I remember, it was a gambling addiction and wastage, would draw out $500 cash in like some innocuous place. So I couldn't work out what that was for. But invariably, within 2 hours, he'd bought drinks at a casino. So you could see that pattern. So in order to taught me that once, he said, what you're looking for are patterns in these things.
Right. What about hidden accounts? You've talked about asset transfers and unusual spending, but hidden accounts, can you ever pick up hidden accounts by looking at their disclosure?
Yes, you can pick up a lot. As long as the money goes into that account, the one you know first, and then they're transferring it elsewhere, you'll pick those up. Here's a bank account, and they'll put the last 4 digits of the bank transfer in the statement, and you go, well, what's this bank account? You haven't disclosed this bank account ending in these 4 numbers. And if they don't, then you go, fair enough, I'm just going to add all those up and say that you've had your part share of your property settlement.
I guess also I think you could put your little detective hat on and go, okay, is there pay going in?
Yeah.
Are they
Where's the salary
paying
going
their
in?
rates?
Yeah.
Are they paying their bills? If they're not, who's paying the bills, or where is that money? Where is that other money? So think about what people usually need to live on. I guess you could compare yours to theirs and see, okay, I'm paying the bills here. Are they paying the bills? Like, where's that money coming in and out? You've got to find the flow.
I think so. I think we're, though, falling into the trap a lot of people do. Disclosure is not about trying to find a weakness or to prove to yourself how rubbish your ex is and how sneaky they are. It's got to be for a purpose under Section 75 of the Family Law Act, and that is it looking at the income, the contributions before, during and after the marriage. You're looking at health, age, whether they're living with someone else, all those things. That's what the court's interested in.
Okay. And so I guess your disclosure when you give it to your ex could be a good thing for you, because it may show the contributions you've made post-separation if you're the one that's paying for all the kids' stuff. If you're the one who's paying all the bills and doing all the work and it's all there in black and white in your bank accounts, then that's good evidence for you. But Mum, if someone's gone through the disclosure, like you said, they've put it in chronological order, they've made sure they've got everything, they've ticked off the checklist, they've got all the disclosure they think they need, and then they're going through it and they're finding this bank account that money's being transferred to and that hasn't been disclosed. How do you and can you ask for more if something doesn't add up?
Absolutely, you can ask for more. So
what do you do?
You say,
so if you find something sus or you don't understand, what do you need to start doing your disclosure but have no idea where to start? Feeling overwhelmed about mediation coming up? Or just trying to deal with negotiating with a manipulative ex? Then you need to go to thedivorcecourse.com.au to go to the free resources section where you can get a mediation checklist, a disclosure checklist, a word salad, read a letter like a pro checklist, and also a before you go checklist. Get ahead of the game and be organised and ready, as this handy checklist, along with the accompanying episodes of the podcast, will be perfect for you. All you need to do is go to thedivorcecourse.com.au and go to the free resource section and download the free checklists today. But Mum, if someone's gone through the disclosure, like you said, they've put it in chronological order, they've made sure they've got everything, they've ticked off the checklist, they've got all the disclosure they think they need, and then they're going through it and they're finding this bank account that money's being transferred to and that hasn't been disclosed. How do you and can you ask for more if something doesn't add up?
Absolutely, you can ask for more. So
what do you do?
You say,
so if you find something sus or you don't understand, what do you do?
I would say a letter to the other side and say, I refer to the disclosure you made on this date with the, let's say, Westpac bank account details ending in numbers 5599. And on the such and such date, there is a transfer of funds to an account ending in blank, whatever they are. I require disclosure of this account.
Okay.
Just be firm. I require disclosure of this account. And if they don't answer it, you've got a lovely letter, all set out exactly what's missing and where it's to be found for the judge. You've got the date that you're asking. On reflection, you might want to say request rather than require. I'm thinking require sounds a bit firm. Yes, so request. And maybe I request that document. And in the absence of any proof of that, then I think you're quite entitled to add up all the money that's been taken to that account and just add it back in and say, it's wherever it is, here it is now. I don't know where it went.
Until you explain it.
That's it. It's back in.
So let's think about this then from a listener's point of view. So we've talked about them going through it themselves. But then there's also the point of view of the people who've got a lawyer, right? So their ex has done disclosure. They've sent the disclosure to their lawyer. Do they get to look at it as well? Does the listener get to look at it?
Yes.
And should the listener rely on the lawyer to do the digging, or should the listener do the digging?
I think both. Two heads are better than one, as my grandma used to say. Even if they're sheep's heads, she'd say. If you look at it and your lawyer looks at it, then that's good. You might both pick up different things. You can't tell your lawyer to not look at it because they're the skilled ones and they know what's relevant.
Can your lawyer tell you not to look at it?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, that's what disclosure is. It's your lawyer wasn't.
We've had letters of people saying their lawyers wouldn't let them see the disclosure.
Well, I mean, your lawyer is not a party to the proceedings. Your lawyer wasn't married to your ex. And the legislation in Section 71B says each party to a proceeding must share with each other party. So I think some lawyers are getting a bit big for their boots when it comes to that.
So next question people ask a lot is, should I take their disclosure to a forensic accountant? My ex is super sneaky. I'm really worried that money's been swept under the table. What are your thoughts on forensic accountants?
Look, I think they're wonderful and very valuable, but I don't know anyone who can afford them, really. And particularly if your forensic accountant can show that, let's say, that your ex has been stealing $500 a week from the business for the last 12 months or 2 years, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. You'll be able to see it going out, right? And you can multiply 500 by how many weeks it was and come up with a number. So I know people love the sound of a forensic accountant, but they do tend to overcomplicate the situation, I think, from the court's point of view. I think I could count on one hand the number of times I've actually seen a forensic accountant come to court and be cross-examined because, because usually the court is looking for what is the property pool, okay? And if there's money that should be there that isn't, well, how much is that? And so you're better sometimes rather than sending in an accountant to go through all their books and look for red flags and sneaky behaviours. I suggest that if there's a business, for instance, that you send a valuer in to value the business. They can look at all of these things. You can ask them to comment on the difference, say, between when separation happened or when they knew there was separation coming and now, and come up with a number, because that's what your judge will be looking for. That's what the mediator will be looking for. And actually, both lawyers and parties should be looking for a number, because once you've got the number for the property pool, how much property there is, then you can start seriously talking about percentages or distribution.
Okay, so because we do hear a lot of businesses, one ex is not providing proper disclosure or says they can't or says they don't have access to it. And it does cause a lot of angst for the other person who just wants to move on with their life and get the property pool sorted. So you're saying it's easier to do valuations, get a valuer in there to value it. Whether they give you disclosure or not doesn't matter anymore because the valuer would have seen all the paperwork.
That's exactly right. And if you want to go uphill and down dale and look at everything that's been happening in the business over the course of a long period of time, the court may very well just say, look, you were married during that time. It's swings and roundabouts or a roller coaster. If you'd made a profit, you would have had a share. If it had failed, you would have shared in the losses. So they're quite disinterested in a lot of that stuff. They're just wanting to know what the business is worth. And sometimes there's other ways of showing what the business is worth. For instance, has it recently been put on the market and then taken off again? How much were they asking for it? Has someone made an offer for the business? What did the other business like that sell for? So you've got a lot of scope before you go down the forensic accountant route. And at the end of the day, if the forensic accountants make these findings or whatever, the judge won't know what to do with it, really. What we need is someone to value it and come up with a figure. And if you ask them to value it as at the date of separation and today, then that difference, that might be the wastage that you're looking for.
Okay. So what is the risk? Because I was an avoidant, okay? I didn't want to deal with it. I did, but I didn't want to. And the last thing I wanted to do was look at disclosure. I just didn't want to look at it, didn't want to deal with it. So what is the risk of someone who's listening today who doesn't have a lawyer? They do the disclosure because that's the hoop they have to jump through. But then they don't look at the disclosure. They just go, oh, whatever. I don't care. I just want this over with. Is there a risk of having a settlement without looking at the disclosure?
Oh, too right there is. If they have given you the document and you haven't read it, that's your problem. If you agree on a property settlement, the obligation was on them to disclose it. What you did with it when you got it was up to you. So
I guess
you do have to look at it.
That's the avoided side. So you got to pull your head out of the sand.
Yes.
And you do have to go through it. And do you have to go through every single page yourself?
It's surprising. You may not, but it's personal, isn't it, sometimes, the information, especially if you've only been separated a few months. To go back 12 months is while you were together. So you'd have to have a pretty good friend to go through it with you. But, chocolate, cup of tea, and just go through. And
so can you get a friend to go through it with?
I don't think there's any privacy issues. It's been disclosed to you. If you want someone to help you, you're not allowed to disclose to people anything that would identify proceedings or who's in a case. You certainly can't show your friends affidavits and things like that. But I don't see why you can't get a friend as a kind of what they call a Mackenzie friend, just to keep you calm and sit with you while you look through it. I don't see any harm in that.
So basically, you're going to get all these documents. It's going to be incredibly overwhelming. I was avoidant. I was incredibly overwhelmed. But you've just got to find some time and maybe set yourself some goals and go, okay, today I'm going to go through the bank accounts. Tomorrow I'm going to look at this, and set yourself some goals, or take a whole day. Take a whole day off, get your friend, prepare awesome dinner afterwards and lots of chocolate and cups of tea, and just make a day of it listening to music and laughing at what they bought.
Or set a little timer and say, I'm just going to do 10 minutes a day for the next month.
Yeah. That's avoidant.
Yes.
High conflict, right? High conflict and manipulative and controlling. I'm going to put these two in the same basket in a way. Knowing that they're going to look at your disclosure or looking at their disclosure, it's lighting a match.
It's like tentacles coming through the papers and grabbing you and causing you stress.
Especially if your ex has got a new girlfriend or you're finding out if you haven't seen your ex, I don't know, for half a year or 2 years, and then you're going to read what they've spent every day from a bank, like, does that cause a lot of issues? Have you got any tips for anyone who's dealing with a manipulative, controlling or high conflict so that there's no blow-ups?
Yeah. I think take a moment, read it first, skim through, and then take a break and then see does this really matter? Does this impact the property settlement in any way? Is it worth asking them about these things? And then I think to stop it blowing up into an accusatory thing, I think you need to run your own ruler through it and make sure you're not asking just out of outrage. My goodness, they bought that house on the day I was having surgery. Oh, my goodness. That sort of thing, which is nasty in the extreme, but there's no point. They know they did that. They know what's missing.
So you're saying put your business hat on,
Absolutely.
Treat it like a job and take the emotion out of it, which is nearly impossible.
Do you know the other thing that's really hard is if you've got out of a coercively controlling relationship or a high conflict relationship and you have got yourself free of that and you're finally starting to breathe easy, and then you have to give your documents to them. And they may
everything you've ever spent.
And they may well write back and go, well, what was this for? What was that for? And the temptation is to tell them to blow it out their ear. But you do have to look like you are cooperative, because when you ultimately go to court, they don't have a long time to look at you and your ex. So those sorts of letters where you tell them to get whatever, they can give the court a very bad impression of you. So just send it over. I have talked to people who've been able to redact some of the things, not too much so that it looks dodgy, but perhaps where they go for their coffee in case there's stalking going on, some things like that. But yeah, I think you just have to be businesslike about it, dear. I do. I mean, there's a reason you're not still together. So don't be surprised by what you see in their material.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things to try and not do is if they're hand feeding you just little bits every week or 2 weeks, because if you've listened to any of our other disclosure episodes, they're pretty much all about delay.
Yes.
Delay.
Yep.
And so this is the first time we've ever talked about what do you look at it? What do you do? Yeah. So when it comes to them drip feeding it to you because they're delaying it, you don't want to let that dictate your day-to-day life.
No.
And so if they drip feed you another thing, you don't want to drop everything, stop what you're doing to go through it. So don't let them dictate when you go through their disclosure. So when do they need to have looked at all the disclosure, Mum? What goal should people who are listening today when should they make sure they have actually gone through it all?
Before they make an offer. Before you make an offer, or if you're considering an offer from the other side, okay? So I agree with you. Some people love that daily taunting of sending a little document here, a little document there. And of course, the temptation is dramatic. You just don't want to leave it for another minute in case there's something important. And it can derail you. And it makes you think about them every day or every time they do it. So maybe try to get some discipline, I guess, around it. Ask your lawyer not to send them to you on a daily basis. Just do every week's worth or 2 weeks' worth in one letter if they can, so that you're dealing with it in a structured space of time, and then you stop dealing with it and live your life around it. But isn't that the hardest thing, Laura? It's the hardest thing to live your life around a separation without letting the separation mess intrude into your life.
Yes, I was just talking to someone just before, and they said that their friend is going through a divorce and they're the most organised, put-together person they've ever met. And this divorce has just completely turned them into mush. And they're no longer organised, they're no longer put together. And of course, that's going to happen to people. And then when you throw in, here's like tons of paperwork, you're going to need to go through that. And if you've got a manipulative, controlling type, they'll deliberately go and buy lingerie from a shop to make sure that you get upset, or they'll deliberately, put little things in to make you
react,
to make you react. So there's going to be, if you're dealing with that kind of person, you're of course going to be a mess or a mush. So the best thing you can do is ask a friend to help you be organised and really compartmentalize it. Compartmentalize
it. That's right. Put it in its own box. And don't let it bleed out into the rest of your day. Because I think you will always acknowledge in your body and your mind and your migraines or whatever you get, they'll always acknowledge when a shock comes through. But unless you make an effort to have shock-free time, like good, normal lifetime experiences, unless you make a habit to have those and a conscious habit to have those, they will slip by unnoticed, and you may look back over the last 3 months and all you remember are these bombs that have come through that have upset you. So it's all very well to preach. We've both been there, and I was like a zombie, honestly, like a zombie.
And I bought a gratitude diary because people said, you got to look for the good things. You got to look for the good things. I think I filled in 2 pages and then just went to mush. So, we're not expecting you to be superheroes because we know you can't
be. And we weren't. Yeah.
And we weren't. No. But when you're doing this paperwork stuff, going through their stuff, it can be hard. So make sure, like you said, Mum said, you be organised, set up a time when you do it and only do it at those times, and make sure you get it done before you go to mediation, before you make an offer, before you accept an offer. And that will help you protect your future, because by doing this hard stuff, you've only got to do it until the agreement is in place. Because, Mum, the disclosure has to keep coming, doesn't it?
It does.
It doesn't just stop.
No, it doesn't.
After they've handed it over.
No, that's right. It's an ongoing obligation, and it starts before you ever go to court. So it is just trying to be very open-handed about what they've got and what you've got, okay? And the court has this idea, which I think is correct for amicable and maybe even avoidant people, that if everyone knows what's on the table, then the chances of it resolving are very high, okay? And if you've got a manipulative and controlling person or a high conflict person, knowing all of the facts for you, that will help you make a decision. For them, knowing all the facts might not be their ultimate. Settlement may not be their aim. They may just want to continue knowing all about you and your daily life. But they'll get there. Their lawyers will see it. They've got to encourage them to settle.
And we've got some episodes on when divorce isn't the end and post-separation abuse and what you can do about it and the legal abuse. But just be aware. And we also have, in case anyone's sitting there going, well, this is the disclosure episode, but my ex hasn't given me all the disclosure. Go and listen to our non-disclosure episodes and what you can do about it as well. But I just wanted to touch on really what the heck are you supposed to do with all that paperwork? And it turns out you've just got to make sure they've given it all to you and it matches what they're saying and it matches the property pool and there's nothing sneaky going on. There's no underhanded
nothing fishy.
Money swapping.
Nothing fishy. Now, you will feel it when you look through. You're looking through and you go, hang on a minute. And that may be the course that you go down. More often than not, it's like, oh, yes, that's normal.
Yeah. And the downside is if you do have manipulative controlling, there's going to be some bombs in there to upset you or deliberately hurt you. So make sure that you prepare yourself, and you could create a bingo board. We've done this before. We've told people to do this before, and say to your friend before you start looking at it, what do you reckon they've spent their money on this month? Is it lingerie? Mm-hmm. Is it expensive holidays? Is it dinner dates? And then, when they do try and hurt you, if you've got a bingo sheet and you win bingo because of it, then it makes it a little less painful.
It's lovely when they are so predictable.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you, Mum, for that episode. If anyone's interested in the disclosure checklist, please go to our website, thedivorcecourse.com.au, and you can go to the free resources section and you can download the disclosure checklist there, and we send you out with that a lot of episodes that will help you on your disclosure journey. And if you are one of those poor people who have got to go through that disclosure pain, we are thinking of you. And we're proud of you.
Yes.
Because if you're listening to this, it means you're intending to do it. So get your highlighters ready, get some pretty highlighters, and get cracking. Mum, is there anything we should be embroidering on a cushion for disclosure?
It's a long one.
Okay. There's always a long one.
It just doesn't matter. A lot of their stuff, it just doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter to the court, and you can't let it matter to you.
Wish there was a way we could put a filter on it for people so they didn't get to see the hard stuff. Wishing everybody the best. Thank you, Mum, for your time, and we'll catch up with everybody again next week. Oh, and if you haven't checked, we do have our Spotify playlist that listeners have been and members have been sharing their best empowerment song for going through divorce. So that is on Spotify, so you can go and listen to that list. I actually got an email from someone just the other day saying they're bangers, I'm driving and I'm singing at the top of my lungs. So go and hear some of the songs you might not know exist that are empowering other people to get through their divorce. So hopefully it will help you. All right. Thank you so much, Mum, for your time, and we'll see everybody next week.
Bye, Laura.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.